right, all right, all right. Let those notifications go out. Here we are. I wanted to give y'all something a little, well, the last faceless live stream we did in the previous room, the photo in the background was not very well. Okay, it is what it is. So I happen to like this one. It's a decent color scheme, little bubbles, right? And I find it very intriguing that there's a lot of decor inside the matrix that represent the color teal, which is green and blue, the color of dust. Yeah, the color of salts. But anyhow, we pick up on these things now when we understand that it is metal salts and excess salt and metal toxicity that it's on the inside of our body, and that is the magnet for radio frequency poisoning. I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA's Let's Just Chat show, streaming on the YouTube channel Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequencies for healthier living. Oh, yeah. So whenever you see the colors blue and green together and they make the color teal, because teal happens to be the color of the majority of the dust that you find. And when it starts to cook, it then turns gray and then black or dark brown, and then you get animated salt molecules. More about that on the Patreon channel. Okay, y'all. And then don't forget about us, okay? And how the devil targets our health with all that excess salt and chemicals and everything like that. And it makes us more susceptible to being cooked from the inside out with radio frequency poisoning when we consume all of that stuff unknowingly. And so now that we're becoming aware of it, hey, awareness is key here, right? There you go. And so I know we've been doing a bit more on the faceless video and live stream area of things. And well, we have our reasons. Right? We have our reasons. We're allowed to do that because this is like podcast style. But those who have been with us for a while, y'all know what I look like. My voice. And so this helps us to test the spirit by the spirit also. And the nosy Jezebels aren't going to stick around unless I am a talking head video. Right? Okay. So, the Jezebels aren't going to stick around necessarily. They might hang out for a couple of minutes and listen to my speech to see if it's still improving once again, or to see or listen to a little bit of the message to see what I'm going to come up with. But they're not going to stick around for the whole live stream. Now, I don't know how long this one's going to be, but I want to talk about why our human side is so predictable. Because I was like, wow. It really is, the devil knows that our flesh is weak. That's why. So when you think about narcissists and how predictable they are, and then how predictable the devil is, because everything on repeat in the matrix is like the same old every single day with them. And nothing changes. And we're starting to see that more and more. And that's the thing, y'all. The more we change, the more we evolve, the more we mature, the more we become aware, right? The more we become closer to the creature God intended for us to become, the more we notice that they're not changing. And they don't want to. And so they become extremely predictable. So like we know, right? They dish out a love bomb. What's next? Oh yeah, devow. And then also when they have a particular comfort zone type routine, that's when the devil knows when to continue playing head games with them and to continue kicking them while they're down. See, there's this notion out there. I want y'all to listen up here. There's this notion out there that the devil does not attack his flying monkeys. Oh, yes, he does. He hates humanity, but fit the very definition of cognitive dissonance because he's dependent on it for his own existence. Remember, the devil and his demon spirit do not exist without a human host. So, That's the crazy part, right? Okay, well, yeah, no, not quite. But see, the devil knows that our flesh is weak, and our flesh is the human side. We are still human. Even though we are spiritual beings, chosen one, we are highly spiritual beings living a physical experience. Yes, okay. But still, our flesh is still weak, the human side. And God knows this. That's why God says our thoughts are not his thoughts. Because he knows, yeah, no, what you thinking, that's not what I got. Oh, y'all don't know how many times. Oh, man. It's awesome, though, because it's like God stepped and he goes, no, 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 no. That's not going to work. I need you to... I'm like, oh, alrighty then. And it always makes better sense. Because it's God's way. This is why we learn to let him guide our steps and not listen to man and the matrix and these narcissists saying, well, you know, I think you oughta. No, okay? But our human side is still going to have some predictability. This is why we have to become aware of it. And we have to learn how to be less predictable where possible. So, you know, it's really funny because the devil catches on to our human nature rather quickly because our human nature represents our flesh. Our flesh is weak, and so we're like, okay, it is what it is. So God knows this, so he brings it to our awareness. You know, he brings our attention to it so we can go, oh, let's switch things up, because that's how God works. So we don't become too predictable on a regular basis. So, for example, to help y'all put it in perspective, the devil picked up on the fact that we tend to make our content after lunch, late afternoon sometime. Now, here and again, you know, depending on the type of content, it would be like first thing in the morning, like a podcast episode. By the way, for those who don't know, CHA's Truth Seeker podcast, yeah, head over to the website at your earliest convenience and check out the CHA's Truth Seeker podcast page on the website. The website link is in the video description below. And when you do that, you will find all the different podcast platforms where that podcast is located. And the only option I have through my podcast hosting site for YouTube is to turn those into video, the pre-recorded one, and then share them to YouTube. We're not going to do that with the pre-recorded ones that we've done past, I believe, episode 37 and 38. The first 37 or 38 are from this YouTube channel. We started the Truth Seeker podcast on this YouTube channel, so it is part of our live Truth Seeker podcast, or part of that podcast arena here on the YouTube channel, more specifically YouTube Music. So we are there with the Truth Seeker podcast on this channel every Tuesday around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, God willing. And sometimes we gotta take a break. It is what it is. But we have a whole playlist that's on the podcast platform on this YouTube platform. And then we also have the pre-recorded that go onto rss.com, and that gets distributed out to Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcast, that's right, Amazon Music, Listen Notes, and more. And all of those, again, are on the CHA's Truth Seeker podcast page of the website. It's in the description below. The website is cdhrwdrmd.org. So, that being said, I highly encourage y'all to check those out, okay? So, we have a couple of things going on with the Truth Seeker podcast. The live ones are on this channel, the YouTube channel. The first 37 and 38 that are on the other platforms came from this to get that started. Now, when you get on to episode 39, all the way up to like 193, yeah, we got a lot of podcasts. Let's see, the most recent one that just dropped is episode 194 on the Truth Seeker side. So that direct link to the podcast platform is also in this video description. Okay, that takes you to CHA's Truth Seeker podcast. It takes you to the rss.com site where you can listen to it right there too. And so, yes, I have 194 episodes to date at the time of this recording of that podcast. And we keep growing. We have more coming. So, that being said, you have that, and then this channel had the live Truth Seeker podcast. Again, every Tuesday around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, God willing. Now, that human side of us, okay, was so predictable. So the devil caught on to when yours truly would make the content that I put up for y'all. And usually it would be, because I was still keeping a lot of the same schedule, if you will, as when I was still living in North Carolina. I didn't realize that, but yeah, I was still keeping that schedule as far as creating content, even though I didn't have to do it the same way, but as if I was still in the car office all the time. And because we're not in the car office like that anymore, we don't have to be. We can do things a little differently. I don't have to do it the same way. But I still was keeping that time frame. And I didn't realize it because it was, well, we're creatures of habit. Okay, we are creatures of habit. And that's another reason why our human side can be so predictable, because we're creatures of habit. The flesh is weak and it will form habits very, very quickly. Yes, the human side of us is very habitual. And so I fell into, it wasn't a comfort zone really, it's just I fell into, that was the work time slot that I got used to. And so we were staying within that. And now it's time to switch things up, because now we're in business trip season. And so I check into a new hotel, and lo and behold, during those very hours that I would normally be getting up to record some content to edit and upload later on in the evening, we had some rowdy neighbors. And I said, oh, that's all right. So we had to switch things up. So this morning, first thing, okay, I got up, got around, thanking God for another day. We put the armor of God on. Thank y'all for hitting the thumbs up on these messages so our fellow spiritual warriors for Christ can get them. It's very important to understand why our human side is so predictable, so we can learn to stop being so predictable. And this is how we do it. So I switched things up. I said, well, I knew I had some Saturday podcast episodes I wanted to get done, so I can schedule those out for y'all. And then I had a couple of videos, and I said, well, you know what, though? I can do faceless videos. So let's get that done. Let's get those done out of the way and have those ready to edit later on and get uploaded for everybody. Some great topics coming. Seriously, we'll keep it coming. And so we're like, all right, let's go ahead and do that. And then I had a couple other things I wanted to do, but I was like, you know what? I heard the Lord say, he said, yeah. He said, but hold off on that. He said, we got a whole switch up to do today. Well, I didn't have to do that. Come to find out that they checked out. And I could have done all my content in the afternoon, but the Lord said, no, we got to switch it up. It's time to change some things. We've got to learn to be less predictable that way. And so that's exactly what we did. We're like, okay. And so then he said, now go for your walk. Okay, go for your walk. And then I had to run to the store and get some fruits and come back here. I was making my all natural carrot juice. I got some watermelon juice. I got some mango juice. I even got a peach, and I figured I was going to eat the peach, but then I said, hey, why not? Let's go ahead and make a juice. So we made a juice out of that. And so we got all that done. And I was going to go and lounge out by the pool in the afternoon instead of in the morning. Well, it started to get cloudy out there, but I was like, hey, we ain't done detoxing today. So we had a plan B. God said, remember the car. Got it. And so we resorted to plan B. And we did not let the devil stop us from detoxing. That's how we get around the resistance. But we switched it up. And so the devil had no idea. Okay? And so basically, yeah, I could have done things the way I always would doing them today. But it was really nice for a change to switch it up. And I said, I like this. I said, we can do this. Because then I was like, well, what about the live stream? And he's like, faceless. He said, you don't have to do every single video talking head. We got plenty of those already up. And so, because it's not about being seen anyway. It's about getting up here and giving y'all these truths, God's spiritual truth. So that you can understand why the devil does what he does. And the narcissists, this is why they study us. Because they want to get that predictability. They want to know when you're going to be somewhere at a certain time. And if we're so predictable, then they'll know when to approach. But they'll study you first. See, that's what the devil does. So for the last several months, I've been using the same schedule, content creating, but even though I was still switching some things up in other ways, okay, it still wasn't enough. I would switch the time that I would go for my walk. Okay, that's good. He said, well, I heard the Lord say, he said, that's a start. Remember, y'all, you just got to get started with something. If you are finding that the devil is attacking a bit more frequently, you got to take a look at what is your human side doing that's predictable. All right? What is your human side? What's the flesh doing that's predictable? And then you got to be intentional, but start with one thing. You got to get started with one thing. That's all. And then it'll get easier to become less predictable and switch things up when God says, I need you to switch this up. And that's what we did. And we started with the time that we would go for a walk. So instead of going around the same times in the morning, like one morning I go like 11 a.m. Then the next morning I might wait till about 11:30. Well, that's still too close. You know, so the Lord said, you got to switch things up. It's going to have to be morning or afternoon. You're going to have to flip-flop. He said, you're going to have to flip-flop. He said, you're not going to do 2 days, and then it's just not going to work that way. You're going to have to flip-flop. And then also different parks. Go to the different parks. So that's what we've been doing, changing things up. And so we spent a couple of weeks on one side of town going to a different park. And that's exactly what we did. We switched it up about every other day. And he said, so that way you're not as predictable with that. Got to get started with something. And so now, when I realized that I was too predictable with creating content, makes it easier for me to go, okay, now we got to get around that resistance. Because I can't control outside noises, right? I can't control. It's a hotel room. I have no control over, you know, the rowdiness of people who check in next door or the things that are going on outside. I got no control over that, right? The only thing I can do is mitigate, meaning, you know, reduce the occurrences of background noise where possible. Now, if there's a noisy fridge in the room, there's nothing I can do about that, all right? Because I'm not going to unplug it. I got food in there. So, you just have to deal with that. But, you know, for the most part, we try to keep it as peaceful as possible. And then, of course, I know we have a voice that carries. So my voice is going to drown out a lot of small background things that may occur while we are doing videos or live streaming. So that's that. And so, but to switch things up, to reduce the possibility of noise and pestilence occurring, that's what we do. We got to become less predictable. And so we don't normally go live at 5:15 p.m. Eastern time, do we? Not all the time. We have now here recently gone like 4:45, 5 o'clock. But 5:15 is a rarity. So there's another new switch up right there. Okay? So now on Wednesday, which is toss-up day, we can be live on Instagram, TikTok, or here. So that will be between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Thursday and Friday is typically going to be your Let's Just Chat right here on the YouTube channel between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time, God willing, of course. And so I'm just giving y'all that heads up so that we have a bit more wiggle room for being less predictable. And so we try not to come up here on the same exact time each day because we already have several things set in position, if you will. For that, like Monday, the Monday motivational, when we get up with this around 4 p.m. Eastern time. Sunday, Let's Just Chat, where we started the whole Let's Just Chat theme on Sundays around 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's set, that's in position. Okay, so you got Sundays and Mondays, and then Tuesdays with the Truth Seeker podcast around 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, again, God willing. And then Saturday with CHA's Saturday Bible Study live around 4 p.m. Eastern time. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday is pretty predictable. It's going to be around those times that we're going to be up here with those particular, well, they're all considered podcasts on the YouTube platform. Okay, so the Bible Study, Let's Just Chat, Motivational Mondays, and the Truth Seeker podcast are part of YouTube's podcast arena on YouTube Music, and so is our playlist, Narcissistic Parents. They flagged it and put it in the podcast arena as well. So glory be to God. And so being less predictable, though, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that gives us a little bit less of a, well, let's just say that makes us less of a dartboard for the devil. So I've noticed that during the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday known time slot is when he typically likes to throw a digital demon into our live stream, because he knows those are the times that we're going to be up here live. So if we go live and he don't know and he's distracted, because remember, the devil comes with distraction, yeah, but the devil, like narcissists, are easily distracted as well. So that's how predictable they are. They are easily distracted. So when we become less predictable, okay, then the devil's already distracted with something else by the time we go, boom, okay, here we are. And he won't even know. He'll never know. Oh, they did that. Okay, nothing they can do because we're done. We got it done. But that's how that rolls. And it's because our human side it's so predictable sometimes like that. And it's easy because our flesh is weak. That's why we fall into the habits that we fall into. And the devil knows this. That's why he plays on that. I mean, this is why it's so important when we get into God's reality and Jesus saves our soul, that we got to repent. We got to be repentant. We got to be aware of this, that our flesh is weak and it's going to fall into habits quickly. And so we got to be very mindful of that and be like, oh, we have to break that habit. We got to switch things up and learn how to get around that resistance. That's a big part of how we do it, because the devil will throw those resistance darts, if you will, when he knows that we're going to get up and try to do something. Because he always wants to try to distract. He wants to try and sabotage. Just like narcissists. They like to try and sabotage what we're doing. It's not going to work, because no weapon formed against thee shall prosper. So that being said, this is why it don't work. God says, okay, we got to get around that. And the way we get around that is we tap into this reality of, hey, our human side, boy, it is so predictable. And that's the way the devil likes it. So we got to learn how to undo that and make it less likable for the devil, so that he can't throw those fiery darts as often. He's still going to throw them, but we can resist the devil, right? Yes, resist the devil and he shall flee. Because we put the armor of God on, right? We got to put God's armor on. It's that simple. And so we're walking after the Spirit, though. While at the same time, this is why I tell y'all, got to have that balance between the spiritual and the physical. So you can understand when we've got to do these things. We've got to go, okay, we cannot continue to just be only, okay, we are walking after the Spirit, yeah. Okay, we are just continuing with that. That's the spiritual side. God's spiritual truth. God is a spirit. We understand this. And so that's what we're seeking after, is the spiritual truths and everything. But we also know we have a physical side that we still have to parent, if you will, because our autonomic nervous system is our inner child. And it will, yeah, because that's part of our flesh. So our flesh is weak. Now, doesn't mean that our inner child is weak. No. Okay, we got to take care of it, and we've got to nurture it, and then we also have to discipline it as it is healing, and we get it back into the present. Once we become aware of how it is responding to radio frequencies and other things out here, then we can get better. We get as much as we can. We get control of it through our thoughts. Remember, our thoughts control our ANF. So we really do have a lot more control over our ANF than you think. The devil knows this. That's why he wants to try and get there in the subconscious mind. And he wants to try to get control of your thoughts or the illusion thereof. And so we don't allow him to do that. And part of how we don't allow him to do that is we learn to be less predictable where possible. Because our human side can do that. It is what it is. But we have to acknowledge it and then take responsibility for it and go, oh, what do we need to do here? And so God will tell us, and he will show us, and he will have us stick to the plan or change the plan or both, okay? I mean, stick to it, but then change the order of things, okay? So that's how God works, and we have to let him be the one to guide our steps. For example, today, knowing we were switching things up, he told me make sure you stick to the plan anyway, no matter whether someone checks in, no matter if they're checking out, no matter what. He says stick to the plan. He said you already have a backup plan for the afternoon. He says stick to the plan. And that's what we've done today. And by doing that, everything has worked out in our favor. That's how it works, y'all. Chosen one, that's how things work out in our favor. When we listen to God, we stay obedient to God. When he says stick to the plan, he knows what's going on before we do. Like, okay, for example, there was a steak. I was actually looking for a prime rib. Okay, well, the store did not have prime rib. And so I said, all right, then let's see what they got for steak. We want to get that beef. And so by sticking to the plan, meaning after my walk, go to the store, I need to get some pineapple and some fruit and things like that. Stick to the plan, he said. Because I could have gone to the store first thing and then, I could have switched it up. He said, no, we're already switching things up, content creating and all of that. He said, I want you to stick to the plan. And so I did. And so when I got there, I got myself a steak for less than $12 that gives me 5 meals. See, God knows these things ahead of time. So this is the importance of why we got to make sure we're listening to God. And so because, I mean, that was the only one. That was the only one priced under $12 and the size of it. And I said, okay, I know that the steak will give me, oh yeah. When I got back here and I divided it up, got rid of the excess fat, and I said, yep, I got 2 breakfast steaks and 3 dinner steaks, which actually makes almost 5. When you think about the 3 ounces, that the Matrix recommend 3 ounces is sufficient enough. And I have to agree. I think 3 ounces of meat really is enough because we learned something with the abundance mindset. A little goes a long way. A little goes a long way. So I want y'all to drop that in the comments below, even on the replay. Yes, drop it in the comments below. A little goes a long way because it does. That's the abundant mindset that we must have in God's reality. And so when God says stick to the plan, that's why. He knows what's there. He has something picked out for us already because he knows what his plans for us are. He knew I wasn't going to find any prime rib, but he also knew, he said, no, but you could get you a steak. So you're still going to get your nutrition, your animal protein and all of that. He said, you're still going to get it. So that's how God works. And so there's your message for today on why the human side can be so predictable. Again, thank y'all for hitting the thumbs up. And I want to say thank y'all for those who have it in their spirit to sow a seed. We are a ministry, okay? We are a growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ here at Consulting for Heightened Awareness. And we do accept grant / what the world calls them, donation. And you will find the PayPal, Venmo, Apple Cash number, yes, listed below, along with the page on the website where you can do it right through the website. Also, on the page, CHA accepts grant / donation. And those on the website start at just as little as $5. Because every little bit counts, and I thank y'all. Okay, and all funding that comes into this ministry also helps to fund our movement, and that's even better because we have more cooking demos and additional radio frequency tips and hacks, along with the RF coaching course now available at CHAacademybtbw.com. Click on all courses and you'll find the RF coaching course. Inside that, you get a free product. Yes, a video download along with the PDF pamphlet that goes with it, that you can keep forever, okay, for as long as you need it, all right, and that's for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Till next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.